of funds there. So if I were to look at this, that is roughly somewhere around that 40,000 crore mark.
There is also guarantee that the government is given that they will lobby with international aid agencies to procure funds
for
Bihar.
For Bihar.
So fundamentally, you have a situation where Bihar, at least on the face of it.
No,
that,
I mean, it's
roughly about.
Look at the number of times Andhra and Bihar were mentioned in the previous budget.
Yeah.
The last budget of the previous government, and the number of times Andhra and Bihar have been mentioned this time. So I think that, look, that's a political context. I don't have a quibble with that. I do want to mention, for the benefit of our viewers who are watching, personal income tax. If you are in the new tax regime, the standard deduction has gone up from 50,000 to 75,000 rupees. Family pension has also been increased from 15,000 to 25,000 rupees. The slabs have also changed. So you're not paying any tax for the first 3 lakh rupees that you earn. So that's been hiked
but
from
only in the new tax regime. Only in the new tax regime. In the new tax regime, there are separate, and it's flashing right on the screens below.
I'd be interested
so
to
the lowest tax slab has increased from to 3 lakhs, from 2.5 lakhs, so 50,000 up there. The standard reduction is up to 75,000, so up another 25,000 rupees.
Then there is will save 17,000 if you're in the new tax.
You will save 17,500. There is a tax revision in the rates also. There is a slab that's created for 10 to 12 lakh rupees, which is about 15%. 12 to 15 lakh rupees is 20%, and 15 to 20 lakh rupees is 25%. In the new tax regime, 30% tax slabs for above 15 lakhs.
But there's also
so they have created 10
news.
to 12, 12 to 15, and 15 to 20.
Some bad news for those investing in the stock market. Long-term capital gains tax increased from 10 to 12.5%. That's quite significant. Short-term will attract 20%.
Not all. Some categories for short-term capital gains. So clearly, the capital gains is something which the government is saying that will tax. But one thing very significant, Nirmala Sitharaman said that there will be a comprehensive fiscal policy, and the entire 1961 Income Tax Act is going to go through an overhaul. Secondly, she said customs duty. All our panelists had spoken about customs duty, and she said we are coming out with a totally revised policy of customs duty. But somewhere for the investor sentiment, there was at least about 30% angel tax. Now that's gone off. 30% angel tax gone off. The foreign exchange for foreign companies, the corporate tax was nearly about 50%. It's been dropped to about 35%. So there is a push everywhere. Somewhere do you feel this whole aspect of feel good? There is something in it for everyone in this budget. And still she's saying, she's still saying Gautam Chakarmane, Gurcharan Das, Rajiv Mantri with us, Sunil Alag and Rajiv Desai. She's saying that the fiscal deficit will be at 4.9%. Now, how did she pull this off is one person. And second, is it too good for everybody to believe? So your thoughts, Rajiv Desai.
It's difficult to say because there's always factors within factors. And so I'm not going to comment on whether that 4.9 and all that is worthy of discussion as of now.
But she used the Gujarat model that you talked about where the state gets involved. We said we want plug and play. She says 12 industrial parks, plug and play. That's what we're going to build across the country where the companies can come and start production right away. We're going to create plug and play industrial parks. So that box ticks. Let me ask you this question, Sunil Alak. Has she ticked majority of the boxes in terms of expectation?
Look, I think she has, because she is going to present another budget on 1st of Feb.
Yeah.
For 6 months, she's laid out the groundwork for moving on ahead. And she has actually, what I was saying in the beginning was that, look, I mean, the average person on the road does not understand anything of fiscal policy, ye, wo and all. But as far as she's concerned, she has given something to everyone.
Well,
and therefore the state elections are coming up, state elections which are going to be by December.
So one was expecting a bit of an increase in spend on the Kisan Samman Nidhi, to be honest. That is what, it hasn't come through. There was a lot of people who were sort of talking about that. Most people had thought that it would come in the interim budget itself, but we haven't seen that. There was talk that it might be increased to about 12,000. That quite has happened. So that's a big risk going into an election where at least 2 of the states have a high agricultural component.
Here is the case, women in agriculture and this whole promise of Lakpati Didis. The amount of money towards rural infrastructure and rural economy, rural poor is 1.52 lakh crore. And the focus she has said that will be on development of the women and encouraging more women into the sector. And there will be, so clearly that money into the rural economy is going to be pumped via the women folk, not necessarily in our head, the men folk as the farmer. Gautam Chakarmane?
I think that I was expecting more of welfare and less of wealth creation and more on the corporate side or the cleanup of the entrepreneurial landscape. But, so I'm not surprised by the welfare measures or employment focus. These were expected. What I'm surprised about is that she has announced next generation reforms. I know for a fact that Jan Vishwas Bill 2.0 is under construction, and she mentioned that. She's talked about land reforms, urban reforms, labor reforms, and so on. So I think the angel tax has gone, which was in any case a ridiculous tax in the first place. Whosoever had put that tax needs to just shift away from finance ministry. But it was ridiculous from the word go. But the fact that she has been able to focus on or point a line of sight at future reforms despite the burden of, let us say, consensus building at the back end or even opposition management on the outside is, to my mind, a big thing. The second thing which I liked was that she's talking about a financial sector reform a vision strategy. And I feel that 90% of the work is already done. She just needs to pick up the FSLRC report, Financial Sector Legislative Reforms Commission, that was put under Justice Sri Krishna. 90% of the work is already done. She should just transplant it and make the financial sector change where it becomes consumer first rather than regulator first or industry first. So I think these are the two big things that I take away.
The compliance for labor also, she's also made she's made the e-Suvidha or Shram Suvidha as a portal, saying that labor compliance will make it easy. She said ease of doing business, she's going to make a big
but she's done a lot on employment. In the morning when we were talking about employment for various people, she's skilling department is something which I spoke about in the morning.
Yes.
Mr. Modi has created a skilling department. He's a minister of state. Now, they have said that, look, employment increase when we wanted. She has given money for employment increase. And therefore, all skilling has to be taken. She's funding from CSR. All private sectors must fund.
I think
so much
that
from
top line
CSR.
number we'll have to look at, because in the morning I was suggesting that perhaps a 20% allocation should be made over and beyond on the skilling sector. I don't know what the exact number is, what it sort of translates
She said
to, but
something like
let's
about
have a
2
look
crores,
at
2 lakh
2
crores.
crores. So I
2
don't
lakh
know
crores
exactly
crores.
how much
Crores
that
is the
is.
amount, yeah.
How
And
much
then-
that is? Is that an increase of 20% or not? Because that
And
is
you were
something
talking about 1 crore in the morning, and now 4
1
crore
crore
people
jobs.
will come
Yes,
under skilling.
absolutely. And
also the point that CSR funds are going to those people who
Yeah.
go for internships in the
Yes.
top 500
Top 500
companies.
companies.
I think it's a good step.
It's a very good step.
And
on
the
employment,
fact that
what
they
we
have
were
to pay
talking
only
about.
10% of the of the cost, I think it does give a larger
See,
exposure
on
to a lot
skilling,
of people.
just some top lines. First timer scheme, 1 month wage to all persons newly entering the workforce in all formal sectors will be provided by the government in 3 installments. DBT or direct benefit transfer to employees up to 15,000 rupees will be done. This will be applicable to those getting salary up to 1 lakh rupees per month. Okay, 2.1 crore youth to be benefited overall. Then manufacturing jobs assistance, incentive of specified scale directly to employee and employer in the first 4 years of employment will be provided to employees entering the manufacturing jobs. This will benefit 30 lakh youth and employers.
no, also the new centrally sponsored skilling scheme that will train 20 lakh youth for a period of 5 years.
5 years.
12-month internship opportunities to 1 crore youth in the top 500 companies for 5 years. Internship allowance of rupees 5,000 per month. Very significant.
Yes.
And a one-time assistance of rupees 6,000. I don't know what the cost for all this will come to, but companies will bear the training costs and 12%
And financial
of internship
support of up
costs.
to
But
10
out of
lakhs for
CSR.
higher
Yes,
education
out of
in
CSR.
domestic
So,
institutions. Annual
yeah.
interest subvention of 3%. That's also for 3%. So there are a lot of aspects.
I'm talking about the overall cost
go
to
with
the
that.
government.
I would say, first of all, a budget is really a signaling,
A statement of intent.
a signaling document. In terms of actual achievement, it's the implementation that matters. And I think that has been done pretty well. The main thing is, from a budgetary point of view, the fiscal deficit route is right. 4.9% moving to 4.5%. I think this would be very reassuring to investors, to all, to the rating agencies, to all those who rate the country. But at the same time, I think what is also important is the path laid out to simplifying the administration of taxation. You know, one of the greatest achievements really of the last few years was faceless assessment. I was hoping this faceless assessment now, she would signal that we are moving this to the GST area, we are moving faceless assessment to the duty, the import duty area.
But you
so
know,
all that.
when you
But
talk
why
about
have the-
signaling,
Sorry.
when you're talking about signaling, I think very importantly, the government through that particular internship scheme that they've launched has indicated that
Yeah.
there is a problem. As far as jobs is
Absolutely.
concerned, I think they've come out of a sort of denial mode on this, and I think that's very good
So
because
as
that
we,
can only.
as we talked this
Yeah.
morning,
Yeah.
the top priority has to be jobs for
Yes,
India.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that a reasonable signal, as you just said, there's a reasonable signal that the government has got this on its mind, and angel tax reduction, all the things that even gold, frankly, the duty
More money available.
Yes.
is on the right. It's all on the right track. The signaling.
If that's the case, then why is the market sentiment so
That's
dull?
right. That's
Well,
exactly
it'll go up again.
It's very
So-
marginally. It was
Yeah,
800
yeah,
points
it's-
down.
yeah.
It's come back
It'll
again.
come back.
No,
Don't worry
but
about
there's
the
a
market.
reaction to the increase in long-term and short-term capital gains, which I believe was necessary because we need a new direct tax code. We need to reset this whole thing.
Yes.
Frankly, the entire expectation in the country was corrupted by the zero tax regime imposed earlier, which was unsustainable and unnecessary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this is the simplifying. What they're signaling, the very good point you made, that there's going to be a new look at the overall reform that is required
And
for
there's
job
a
creation.
clear hint on
The
direct
markets
tax
are actually
code.
climbing
Yeah.
back up. They are not down so
Yeah, no,
much
this
as
is
they
a
were,
great win
and
for,
they
I
are
think,
increasing by the minute,
structural
climbing
reform.
back up by the minute. I'm just reading out the new tax slabs for the benefit of viewers. PIB has just put it on. Tax relief and revised tax slabs in the new tax regime. 0 to 3 lakh rupees, no tax, 0%. 3 to 7 lakh rupees, it's 5%. 7 to 10 lakh rupees, it's 10%. 10 to 12 lakh rupees, it's 15%. 12 to 15 lakh rupees, it's 20%, and above 15 lakh rupees, it's 30%. Then, the income tax saving of up to 17,500 rupees for salaried employee in the new tax regime. Income tax and relief for around 4 crore salaried individuals and pensioners. Standard deduction for salaried employees to be increased from 50 to 75,000 rupees, and deduction in a family pension for pensioners to be increased from 15,000 to 25,000 rupees. So, that's the.
No, you got to remember that, look, in another 6 months, on 1st February, she's going to present another budget. So she's only used the current budget as saying that, look, here is the direction that I'm going to arrive at, because employment, and she's already given a lot of stuff out on employment, and then she's also made money in your hands, because a lot of people are complaining that rural areas, until the growth comes in consumption, she is given benefits. But in 6 months, she's going to come out with another budget. What is she going to say on 1st Feb if she says everything now?
Now,
So I can tell you one thing,
It
that
sounds
at
like
least
the
on
review
this,
of the IT Act, which was announced, the review of IT Act is going to be significant.
you know,
in the next budget.
the opposition was talking, especially the Congress was talking about
That's why I
this
said
Nyay
overhaul of-
Patra.
sorry,
And I just feel that this incentive that has been given out for skilling, etc., is going to blunt that. That's a very clever political move also.
No, and
of
not
course,
just
it
that, you have
addresses
to
the
learn
challenge
from,
from
you have to learn
for
from the
jobs.
opposition. The last
Yes.
time around also, Ayushman Bharat somewhere found its thing from
Yeah.
what the opposition had proposed. Even now the opposition has come out and said the angel tax abolishment, Mr. Chidambaram has already
Yeah.
taken to X and said we had pushed for it for a long while. Finally you have done ahead, but then they're saying no, it's not being done like we recommended. But in terms of manufacturing, one of the other conversation points for all of us, gents, was the fact that if you want to create jobs, you got to the thrust has to be on manufacturing. Now, manufacturing and services, and especially with MSMEs, your thoughts. I'm just reading out some of the bullet points. Will make MSMEs compete globally. Credit guarantee for MSMEs. Build-in-house capability for MSMEs.
Dormitories.
Okay, new credit assessment model for MSMEs for credit eligibility. SMA accounts for MSMEs in stress. Mudra loans limit enhanced to 20 lakhs from 10 lakhs. Converting trade receivables to cash, that is, the turnover has been brought down from 500 to 250 crore. Then SIDBI branches in MSME cluster, new branches opened in 3 years, in MSME clusters over 3 years. E-commerce port hubs. The e-commerce tax has also come down from 1% to 0.1%. So they've reduced that also. E-commerce export hubs to enable traditional artisans and MSMEs to launch their product in international markets. Rahul was mentioning about the scheme to provide internship to top 500 companies to 1 crore youth in 5 years. And they will also be given 5,000 per month along with one-time assistance of 6,000 rupees. 12 industrial parks under National Industrial Corridor program to be sanctioned. And this industrial corridor is part of this Purvodaya, where they have said that from Maharashtra to Bengal, they are going to build this entire investor corridor.
Yeah, you know, the only thing I was missing, if you ask me, we have to signal the fact that our tariffs are too high. If to become a major exporting nation, there has been some. The pyramid they are fixing, and that's good. But I think we need to get the country, especially the protectionists, to understand that eventually there has to be a lowering of.
But sir, she has promised that customs duty revisions will happen for the benefit. She's saying, she's very clearly said that there is a big statement on customs duty reforms, the entire overhaul of the IT Act 1961.
Of electronics manufacturing, phone manufacturing.
Because
of that, there's
gold, she brought it down to 6%. Because the average person gives away a lot of gold.
Import duty on gold is something that everybody spoke about and said bring down the import duty of gold, and then she's brought down.
Good. I think it's all very good.
Which does what?
The best average person, whether it's rural or not, has some gold which is given away in weddings. And therefore, having a high tariff meant high prices of gold. Now it's lowered the price now.
No, also a lot of savings, even today, household savings, a lot of it happens in gold.
Happens
so
in gold.
I mean,
like 6% down.
It should be related to ultimate manufacturing success in the world. That which is what we are all looking forward to.
To that extent, I think this customs duties it will be you're walking on needles. The whole world is raising duties. They're getting more insular. They're getting less globalized. So I think what she has done right now, ceteris paribus, is the right thing. But tomorrow, if suddenly other countries begin to raise tariffs and raise barriers to trade out there, I think we should be quick enough, and I believe this government will be to change this.
Big broad points.
So broadly, I think it's a good direction to tell the world.
Certainly, the emphasis on jobs, particularly first-time entrance into the job market, I think there's a huge emphasis on that. Whether it is the tranche of 15,000 rupees per year in 3 installments, whether it is internships and things like that. This is not something you heard in previous budgets. There was not this much emphasis on first-time, employed, first-time entrance into the job market. So I think that is significant in and of itself.
Is it a push to organize labor? Is it a
program.
push to perhaps even organize labor? Declare the person who you are employing and bring them under the organized
the employment-linked incentives. So this was, by the way, also tried in Jharkhand by the Jharkhand state government.
Okay.
To boost like labor-intensive manufacturing, and they got a lot of success in bringing some textile and other kinds of apparel industries to Jharkhand. So unfortunately then that government changed and then that program went sideways, but I think this is a great idea to give a booster to the areas we were talking about.
You know what, above 15 lakhs, she said above 15 lakhs if you earn 30%. What we were discussing outside, I pay 41 or 42% with the, what happens to people we were discussing outside. We got to see the fine print because she stopped at 15 lakhs and above 30%. Do I pay 30%? I don't pay 30% today.
No, that's the cess. No, you are also paying. So she's not talked about the sex.
No, it's the cess part is 40%.
She's not talked about the cess.
40%.
Yeah, those are
40%
over and above.
taxes.
Those are
But
over and above the highest
if I come into
tax slab.
30% with the cess, I am very happy. She's not talked about anybody earning.
No, that's what it requires a lot of clarification.
To come back to the issue of being competitive in terms of our tariffs, it is correct that there was this, the most hopeful statement was that there's going to be a policy on this. I wouldn't worry too much about the rates, the other countries becoming protectionist. We need to worry about our competitor countries. In other words, the countries from which we are competing, Vietnam's, etc., for becoming a manufacturing base for the large multinationals. And for those, I think there is, I just would have liked some signal that that's what we are looking forward. We want to join the global supply chains. And
but
to do
tax
that.
alone can't help that.
No, but you know, the reality is import duties, ultimately you have to signal that you'll become competitive to the world, to what the world wants.
Let's just bring it.
Reduced it on mobile phones. She's reduced it on cancer medicines to zero. So,
and
in
several
6 months'
several
time,
yes.
the direction of reducing duties is on.
Okay, let me just quickly bring this
And
back to
why?
the political aspect of it. That has the government been able to swing the narrative back in its favor with Purvodaya? Just quickly going through, and then Zaka take this forward with the others. A plan for all-round development of the eastern region of the country, covering Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. This will cover the human resource development. Amritsar-Kolkata corridor, beg your pardon, not Maharashtra-Kolkata, Amritsar-Kolkata corridor. It will catalyze industrial development in the eastern region, particularly Gaya, where there will be Vikas bhi and Virasat bhi. Patna, Purnia, Buxar, Bhagalpur, Bodh Gaya, Rajgir, Darbhanga expressways to be developed over the Ganga in Buxar. That will be a bridge. That will be, they are ready to spend 2,600 crore. Buxar is a Naxal belt. Over that, they are planning to build this. New medical colleges and sports infra in Bihar to be constructed, multilateral bank support, airports to be built, 15,000 crore will be arranged in future years, AP Reorganization Act and reorganizing the state's need for capital and financial support will be provided through multilateral agencies. So no special status, but everything special that's being directed. PMAY, 3 crore additional houses, rural and urban areas in the country. Women-led development budget carries an allocation more than 3 lakh crore for women-led development. So we'll have to see where this money comes from. But overall, Janjatiya Unnat Gram Abhiyan, tribal families.
No, look, politically speaking, I want to lay down the political context. Certainly, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh and the two political leaders there on whom this government depends, Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu, should be relatively happy. Relatively because you compare this to budgets in the past, the last 5 budgets, I don't think Bihar or Andhra Pradesh have been mentioned as many times as they were mentioned today. The other political context is whether this is enough. What I didn't hear, politically speaking, is Maharashtra or Haryana, because those are the states that are going to polls in the next 2 months. So either the contention is that, look, there is nothing we can do that can sort of retrieve the position, therefore it doesn't matter, or the point is that the government and this budget is sort of factoring in what could be some political downsides. They're very clear. For the longevity of this government, it is absolutely essential to keep Nitish Kumar and Chandrababu Naidu happy. And certainly, if you are the chief ministers of those 2 states, and given the allocations that the finance minister has made for those 2 states, specifically in this budget, it is far more than what you have seen in budgets in the past. And there's a very simple political logic to it. Whether or not this will change the political narrative for the government, whether they can seize the initiative, get back the headlines, electorally speaking, like I said, I didn't hear enough of Maharashtra or Haryana or even for that matter Jharkhand, because that's the first big test for Modi 3.0 government. Can they win Maharashtra? Can they win Haryana? Can they wrest back Jharkhand? I don't know. I'm not seeing that yet.
See, the only state that they mentioned, Assam, assistance for flood management, Bihar, assistance for flood management, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, tourism, again in Bihar, Himachal Pradesh, assistance for reconstruction for areas ravaged with flood. But overall capex allocation, again, this is the Sanatan aspect of it, that they're saying 11,11,11 crore rupees. So 11,000, 1111.
No, the good thing about capex is she's not reduced capex in any significant way. She's kept the capex pretty much at the same level as it was last time. So that's a good thing.
But most of the Gram Sadak Yojanas, most of the villages that are going to be adopted, all of this is in the Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, this region. That's where the villages that are going to be adopted, that's where the modernization is going to happen, money is going to be spent, and the focus. So politically, have they given enough for Nitish Kumar to go back and tell his constituency, dekha, maine kar diya?
I think so. I think politically speaking, for sure. I mean, compared to previous budgets, he certainly is
Can I
going.
just talk about, see, he relies on Chandrababu Naidu. If he leaves,
Yeah.
less than 372 seats, he will go. So he has to give more money to Chandrababu. even if Nitish Kumar goes 10, 12 seats, even if he decides to go, so what? He still has 372 seats. Look, I mean, his thing on Bihar and everybody else on tourism and all, he's spending a lot of money. But you're right, on Maharashtra he said nothing, which is
So
where the Maharashtra is a different problem altogether now.
Yeah.
Because it's not for money that Maharashtra needs anything.
Here is the reason why the push for the temple economics or the development in Bihar
is tourism.
Because of prohibition, sir. There is no, they have prohibition on, which is a huge vote bank, but it's a big drain on the revenue because of the tax collection not happening. If you are able to develop temple economies, look at the Kashi Vishwanath model, look at the Ayodhya model. If they are able to do that with Gaya, if they are able to do it with the Mahabodhi temple, Rajgir, so not just Hindu but Buddhist and Jain, and if they are able to create an infrastructure and economy, there is a model which says that, and Sriram Balasubramaniam calls it Dharmanomics or Kautilyanomics, which says that if you are able to create these economies going, you can offset the revenue loss because of prohibition with this and create an all-round secular growth. Because it will feed it itself. Everything will feed in itself. Now, if this is testing the waters, this can tomorrow be replicated and suggested to the people of Tamil Nadu also.
See, we have to remember that in 6 months she's going to, in 1st of February, she can't say that I've given everything. I don't want to speak about anything now anymore. In 6 months, she's going to give far more money on tourism, which we'll see what happens. Now, whether Maharashtra, whether they are able to change or not, the narrative may change a little bit. But in 6 months, look, a budget is supposed to be 25% strategy for 5 years and 75% of what happens in that particular year, normally.
Sir, this could also mean, look what I will do for you if you vote for me.
Vote for me, correct.
That's also a cue that's going to Haryana, and that is going to, Haryana has also faced losses because of the farmer protests. It's because that entire hosiery industry.
The other the most significant political state in the country, of course, is Uttar Pradesh. It sends the maximum number of lawmakers. I didn't hear, maybe Rahul can correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't hear any specific Uttar Pradesh related announcement in the budget.
No. So Uttar Pradesh will, the next elections will be after 2 or 3 years. So he's 2 years at least. So he's quite comfortable on 1st Feb.
Defense corridors already got
a lot of things which
there are already money pumped on the defense corridor. Even this Amritsar to Kolkata is going to pass via Uttar Pradesh.
I think
so it's all going to converge somewhere there.
So I think fundamentally, when you really disaggregate some of the benefits that are being passed on to at least especially those who are going to be entering the job market, who creates, which are the states where the manpower comes from? It's Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, some of the North Indian states. So there's, by some, indirect benefit, there is benefit coming through. And I suppose if you look at it. But I think it was important in this particular budget for the government to signal that it is accommodating of its allies. It knows how to walk the tightrope on maintaining coalition dharma as well as getting things done. So I think that was very important for stability. And if you really look at it, they are also saying that, look, we have not compromised on the fiscal glide path, that capex will remain something that we are committed to. So we're going to do the heavy lifting, which is an invocation to obviously private capital to also step in. Right. So I think the larger picture is stability, continuity. We're on track. India is on track. Anyone looking outwards, looking inwards from outside will say, okay, India's still got its macro picture right. I think that was important. It's an important message.
To take this,
we got Niranjan Hiranandani, co-founder and MD Hiranandani Group is with us. We should have TV Mohandas Pai also. And we also have Mahesh Jugani, tax expert, joining us. Namaste and Jai Hind, Mahesh ji and Niranjan ji. Niranjan ji, your thoughts on the budget? Market sentiment still low, but your thought overall?
I'm really happy with the budget on several points. First of all, the fact that the focus on housing, on affordable housing is immense. It's PMAY scheme with 1 lakh crores committed in the segment for the purposes of housing, especially in the affordable housing segment. Number 2, they have further asked the states to actually rationalize taxes. They have said stamp duty should be reduced in terms of it. Number 2, special rebate should be given to women who are buying houses. That's second. And the third part of it is overall rationalization of those taxes. In cities like Mumbai, the taxes are so high that almost 50% of the cost of the house in important areas of high cost areas really goes into taxation. So, that's the issue. Number two, I think the fact of rental housing was the first time taken up. We've been asking for it for the last 5 to 10 years, but they've only focused on industrial service dormitory type of housing. I think entire rental housing has not been taken up, and we were hoping that it would be the entire gamut of housing, including why not software people, why not educational hostels and other things that need to be created for the purposes of this aspect of it. I think that's an important factor. But the investment into urban areas and infrastructure like metro, like these aspects of roads and other things in 100 cities will definitely give a boost to the housing sector also. The other aspect of it is education and skilling. I think both of them are extremely important, though they have touched only on the periphery as far as the education is concerned in her budget. But on skilling, I think the focus is tremendous and it was needed. I want to tell you, I hardly am able to get skilled workers in my site. If I want 100, I can't get people even like carpenters, plumbers, fitters, electricians, not even 20 I can get.
Correct.
And we are now talking about huge growth in this sector. So I think skilling is going to become a very important factor, and I think the focus on that is extremely important. The third thing I think is digitalization of all records. Records in the country in respect of title is terrible. I can't make out for the title of the property for the life of me. And after I've got a perfect title in my property, after 5 years, somebody can go to court and claim something and my titles can be thrown into bits and pieces. I think the idea of digitalization of records and making it final is going to be extremely important. What is it? And of course, litigation in terms of it, some directions have been given in terms of reducing litigation of the tax side of it, which is very important. It can be quite vicious when you open more than 10 years of records and on technical issues. I think something has been done, but more needs to be done in that segment.
Well, one thing which perhaps will keep you buoyant, why do you think the market sentiments are down, Mr. Hiranandani?
I think that the segment of 10 to 12.5%, 2.5% is a talks which is done, but real estate is happy. We were 20%, we are down to 12.5%.
So it's coming back up. Mr. Hiranandani, please stay on with us. I also just want to quickly ask Mahesh Jugani, tax expert, how would you see the new tax regime, the revised slabs, and the promise from the finance minister that there is a complete overhaul of the IT Act 1961 in the offing, including perhaps a revision and reconsideration of the entire customs duty structure?
I guess here is some mistake. I am representing MSME here. So I will speak about takeaway on MSME.
Right.
This is, I guess, first budget. Yeah, thank you. This is first budget where, I observe many budget in past. This is first budget when economic survey and budgetary recommendations are more homogeneous. This budget I can, explain in 3-4 ways. Like it is helping hand to MSME. It's very youth and woman centric, and green energy transition or green energy incentives are very much in focus there. A part of skill development, they have focused on this industry and government partnership first time in a very big way. Now almost 1 crore youth will be trained, as Hiranandani ji said about this lack of skill. Today in MSME we are facing a very big trouble. There are many graduates, but they don't have skill we require. So this is a very welcome step from government. Very first time they focus on skill. When MSME get good resources, human resources, India will solve the job problem. And I guess in the long term, this will benefit India a lot.
We have Charanya also, Charanya Lakshmi Kumaran, partner LKS with us. Namaste, Charanya ji. Your thoughts on the budget?
Right. So, I was just hearing all of you talk about dispute management. And if I have to look at the budget from a tax perspective, we'll break it up into direct tax and indirect taxes. From a direct tax perspective, very clear signs, some positive signs. We have the bucket of dispute management that you were all talking about. So we have the Vivad Se Vishwas scheme. There is some relief that is given in terms of the monetary limits for filing appeals by the department. I think those limits have been enhanced significantly. I can tell you from High Court and Supreme Court side, it used to be 2 crores, that's been made 5 crores for the Supreme Court. And that's a big jump. So we can see a lot of reduction in pendencies of the court and, the clogging of the court. It will really, really help. The Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, again, I think hopefully will be a success. There were some disputes about it last time. We hope it doesn't lead to more disputes. Some simplification measures from the income tax perspective. They're going to rationalize the act, look at simplifying things about the charities, having a singular regime for taxing charities. Similarly, I think having uniform rates, 1 or 2 rates, 2%, 20% for TDS, that's a very useful thing. Again, I think reducing ambiguity, removing angel tax, abolition of angel tax. I think this has been a ask of the industry for a very long time. They've experimented it with Indian, non-Indian, foreign in the past, and I think we have. Hopefully, this is the right balance, and by abolishing it altogether. So we are very happy about that. Relief, I think capital gains, the relief that we are getting from 20% to 12.5% for long term, I think that's a very big relief. We can see some, action from the real estate side. I think that's going to be a very positive outcome for them. Similarly, certain financial instruments, they're reducing it to 20%. Again, a good signal. And hopefully that will.
No, but isn't the long-term capital gains going up from 10% to 12.5%? It's not 20%.
In certain sectors, it will come down to 12, from 20 to 12.5. So I think there will be somewhere to go 10 to 12.5, but 20 to 12.5. Also, I think is going to be a big, a big positive sign.
And your thoughts on the TDS issue? Do you think that's a big one where they say that they're going to decriminalize delay in payments of TDS?
Yes. That's a very big thing. We've been seeing a lot of unnecessary litigation because of this, a lot of unnecessary disputes. I think once we read the fine print, I think that's going to be a very positive signal. We've also been seeing a lot of clients have this issue.
If that's the case, why are the markets not responding positively yet? Or have the markets also misunderstood? Because many believe it's the LTCG sentiment.
Reaction to the increase in the long-term and short-term capital gains on listed.
STT also.
STT for FNO.
I think for FNO, but even then.
So see, I can't comment on why the market is going up or not. Okay, I'm a tax lawyer. I can't predict the market.
You can't allow this to run.
I think once we see the fine print, it'll all come out. Of course, there is some comments I would just want to make from an indirect tax perspective, because we've heard a lot of push on manufacturing. And I just want to call out a couple of positives that we've seen from a customs perspective. Typically, if you want to see increase of manufacturing, you have to look at customs, because that's where they give you relief on the input side. So I think the pharma sector, there is going to be a fillip. Energy, critical minerals, again, a very critical inputs. Expensive inputs, you're going to see a reduction in taxes there. Again, that's a positive outcome, hopefully leading to increased and improved manufacturing. Electronic, mobile, these are also areas where they've, you're going to see a reduction in the BCDs. Precious metals, steel, electronics. See, the idea is to increase value addition in India and not just do assembly. So I think the push is we're going to go further behind the supply chain and have more value addition happen in India. Which is why if you see at that level at which they are giving benefits, is to increase value addition for steel, for
So
precious metals.
reduce customs duty on import, raw material, etc. But whereas you can on finished goods you can keep a higher levy to dissuade direct import of finished goods
Yes,
into the
direct
country.
import, at the same
Three
time promote export.
three cancer drugs also have been now duty has been
Yes.
waived. So I'll get the details on which are these 3 drugs and how critical they are. Charan,
Yes.
please stay with me. Mohandas Pai of RN Capital with us. Namaste, Mr. Mohandas Pai, Rahul Shivshankar, Zaka Jacob, a whole host of bright minds with us here. But let me first ask you: Are you thinking about the angel tax waiver, or beyond that, as you reflect on the budget presented by Nirmala Sitharaman ji?
Well, I think there are a lot of good things that have come into the budget, because what I'm interested in, what is the direction for the next 5 years? The budget tackles some of the biggest challenges we have, that of creating good jobs. So there's a focus on job creation, that is very good. There's a focus on education and skill development, that's very good. There's a focus on women, that is very good. There's a focus on infrastructure and urban areas. Urban areas are getting priority with huge investments. That's very good news. Then there is a focus on regulatory easing, which is very good, like the increase in the appeal system. And then there's a focus on making sure that policies will change in multiple areas. In the areas of taxation, the important thing, Anand, is listed and unlisted financial securities now are treated in the same way. Earlier, unlisted was 20%, now it's come to 12.5, whereas listed was 10, it's gone to 12.5, is an increase. And both are treated similarly. We've been asking for that. That's very good news. Except that the holding period for unlisted is 2 years, which is again very good. So I think that is fantastic, because unlisted you take greater risk. In listed you take lesser risk because of liquidity. That's very good. Short term, the increase for financial for listed from 15 to 20%. That's okay. And for even F&O, I think that's all very good. I only wish in the tax slab they could have done, for example, from 7 to 10, for example, from 7 to 12, they could have 7 to 10, they could have just cut a little bit more. And 10 to 15, they could have put it at 15% instead of putting it at 20% above 12. Anyway, they've given only a small few crumbs to the private sector. You see, Anand, today, one big challenge in direct taxes is the people who are retired senior citizens like me, we paid heavy taxes all our life, and the burden continues. At least for senior citizens up to 10 lakh, they should get exempted income tax, because they have expenditure on medical and other things. They're given a few crumbs. And, Anand, the sad thing is they're not mentioned South India. I think we in South India are very angry and upset. It's good to mention Andhra Pradesh, good to mention Bihar, that's very good. Good to mention West Bengal, even though nothing is given there. Good to mention Jharkhand, etc. But what about South India? The whole of the South is ignored. We in Bangalore, 5 seats in the Bangalore area went to the BJP in the MP election, and even in MLA they went there. We're not even mentioned in the budget, despite having a finance minister from Karnataka. I don't know why Prime Minister Modi is ignoring the whole of the South, not mentioning any special scheme for them. So overall, Anand, is a great budget. Many good things have come. They must now execute, sets the direction for the future.
Sir,
reducing fiscal deficit to 4.9% is very good, because government should not borrow more.
For all you
next year,
For all you know, Mr. Pai, it's Purvodaya now. 6 months later, it will be Dakshinodaya. So you have to leave something for her to do in February, as many would believe.
I don't know, but he's only going to increase anti-center sentiment in the whole of South. The Tamils are now going to start a campaign. I hope they don't. Even in Karnataka, I'm sure a chief minister will accuse the center of discrimination. Kerala is again in bad shape. They will again start. Maharashtra, they're going for the poll. They're asking what happened to us. Andhra got everything. Telangana got, I don't know what Telangana got. South India, they should have thrown a few crumbs, no? Crumbs. We're all begging. We're all begging. We pay the most taxes in South India. What do we get in return? Only a few, not even a few crumbs. It's a very bad day for South India.
Sir, if you start asking for tax rebates and tax exemptions, then I don't know where all of us have to go.
No, Anand,
but I agree with your sentiment.
Anand,
that you're saying
Anand,
senior citizens need to get some relief.
Anand, South India pays the majority of tax. You got to treat us properly with respect. There's no respect for South India here. Give it to Bihar, but give us something like more infrastructure. For example, give us more money for a metro in Bangalore. Give us a special grant for some roads. Give it to Hyderabad. We are the people who pay heavy taxes. In angel tax, I want to make a point, Anand. The abolished angel tax is very good, but they must withdraw all cases filed under angel tax for the past and make sure no new cases are going to be passed for angel taxes where assessment is not done. Because we don't want the harassment to continue. That I think should be done. That will be great.
Great.
No, I just want to echo the point made by Mr. Pai. I think he's put it very well, that the differential between listed and unlisted, and we should bear in mind that it's the unlisted investment which is actually creating downstream jobs, which is helping with capital formation in the economy. Whereas with listed shares, obviously we want a thriving stock market, but having such a vast differential in taxation was forcing investors to choose asset classes based on the taxation criteria. It was making an entire asset class unviable.
All right.
Which has changed now.
We're going to keep everybody's
Very
mic
important
open. Just don't speak over each other, but please chip in. Because some of our guests are outside. Niranjan Hiranandani, Mohandas Pai, Charanya, and also Mahesh Jugani not there with us in the studio. We keep your mics open. If you want to chip in, please jump in and say that you've got to make a point. I'm just bringing it back into the studio to get their thoughts over what you have said, and then we'll take it forward. Zaka? Yeah.
No, I think Mr. Pai is right about the political sort of aspect to this budget. This is something that the government will have to contend with. Very soon you will see MPs from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala say that, look, what have we got? Even before that, Maharashtra, because that's going to polls in the next 2 months. Haryana is going to polls in the next 2 months. I don't think the political question in Uttar Pradesh, for example, is settled, because given all the stuff that we are seeing of late in the press about who is responsible for the defeat, Saket is here. I mean, he can weigh in on this. I didn't hear any specific UP reference in the budget. So I'm just talking about, look, I'm not a finance expert, I'm not an economics expert. I think, one, the realization that jobs, particularly entry-level jobs, is a problem and it needs to be addressed. I think full marks to the finance minister for addressing that, whether it is, giving tranches of money to first-time entrants into the job market, incentivizing companies, giving 3,000 rupees to companies if you for every additional new employee that you put in EPFO. The intern scheme, 1 crore interns in the top 500 firms, all of that is great, and I think that's an acknowledgement that jobs is a concern. So she's addressing and speaking directly to those concerns. But as far as the politics is concerned, I am not seeing anything narrative changing other than the fact that Bihar and Andhra have managed to get a lion's share of the budget allocations and announcements, simply because of the political reality of Modi 3.0 government, and that is that they're dependent on allies in Bihar and Andhra for their political
Rajat Dhar and Saket Mishra with us. Yes, Rajat.
Hi. So, like much of the things have already been covered by the blue-eyed boys here, right from Mohandas Pai and our respected panelists here. So, I will be touching those things, those which have not been touched, जिनका दिल टूटा है, तो हम उसके बारे में बात करेंगे सर. So, first and foremost, when we're talking about the outlay into the infrastructure, the main pain point is private investments in infrastructure are not happening by private players when it comes to roads and railways. So, are there any incentive how the government is going to tackle that? Government is not going to spend everything in totally on roads and railways. So when we talk about infrastructure development and particularly roads and railways, so how you would get private sector participation in that? However, private spending is concerned, even the bank's data has told that there has been an increase of 1 lakh crore in terms of financing raised by private players in their capex. So that is not a problem. They are spending money, but they are not spending money in roads and railway projects. Point number one. Point number two that comes is with regard to the TCS. The TCS had gone to 20% for the smaller and the bigger players, except those who are going for foreign educations. So that has to come down. Like on one level, you are talking about gold and everything. Now you see how much gold we are importing and how many people are traveling now outside. Even from the middle class people taking loans so as to ensure that एक foreign trip करनी है, or they have to go outside. So that 20% of the TCS that has been done, that had to be rationalized, which I believe, if I have not missed it, that has not been
no, it's not been announced.
Another thing, when we are talking about making India competitive in the global landscape, and I would say that there is one industry segment that is actually crashing down and nobody is saying, looking at that, that is the aviation. But what is the pain point? There is an Indian Airlines and there is the foreign players. Foreign players can get their jets fueled outside and come India. Why? Because in India there is a GST. So why the aviation fuel of the GST has not been addressed? so that that could provide benefit to the Indian airlines and they become more competitive on the landscape, so that at least they get some breather. And there will be a butchering happening on there, but at least they will be competitive on a global scale. हम global supply chain की बात करते हैं, global competitiveness की बात करते हैं, and you have an airline industry, you have Vistara, you have everything, but they are competing with a GST load on their heads and not competing as far as the cost, which is one of the main, like fuel, considered there.
Okay, just hold your thoughts. I've got
Aviation fuel.
ATF is not part of GST.
Yes.
But then that has to be worked into, no? Because.
But I mean, it can't be on the budget, of course. But FM did say that there will be reduction in bands and rationalization
it's going to happen. It's on the offing, but it's a consolidated fiscal policy reform that is going to be announced very, very soon. Just quickly going across to CII, Avantika, over to you.
The youth on skilling. Right, Anand, I have with me Deepak Shetty, CEO, MD, JCB India, and I have Ipshita Dasgupta. She's the MD, Senior VP with HP India. Anand, you know, the mood here has been very positive about the budget. Many are calling it progressive, comprehensive, and bold as well. Ipshita, coming to you now, the first-time employee scheme, so much emphasis on skilling, on job creation, on youth, on women. How did you feel about the budget?
Absolutely. I think you said it, Avantika, when you said it's a progressive and also a very substantive budget for the country that is the workforce of the future for the world. The emphasis on first-time employees and direct benefit transfers to them, the emphasis on MSMEs and helping them in job creation in manufacturing, the focus on skilling and the holistic focus on female employment is huge and really quite impressive. I think what's interesting to see is what are the next things that we need to think about, which are around things like technology and the enablement of technology. But the budget has really captured the importance of the workforce, productivity, and creating an environment that nurtures first-time employment.
Mr. Shetty, would you concur? Because the hallmark of this government has been its discipline to fiscal deficit. You know, that is something that is commendable. It is very cautious as far as expenditures are concerned, and that's driven by very robust economic growth, by very good tax collections as well. Your thoughts? There hasn't really been an infra capex as far as this budget is concerned, but how do you view the budget?
I think you have said it, Avantika, very well. I think it's a very comprehensive budget. But what we have seen in the other parts of the world, that growth has come, but people have taken their eye away from the fundamentals of the economy. The fiscal prudence sometimes has been given a go-by. What the finance minister has demonstrated, and this is not this year itself, last few years, that India has been growing, but there is also while keeping an eye on the fiscal prudence part. And that makes it a very robust growth and a sustainable growth. So which is a very positive.
Case, right? This government traditionally has walked on the path of fiscal prudence over speculations of populism. And that, it seems, has also worked in its favor.
No, absolutely. And more importantly, some of the sectors, for example, focus on infrastructure has continued. And we all know that infrastructure has a multiplier effect on the economy. Now, even before this budget also, people were talking about that there will be pressures and maybe the focus will be less on infrastructure. But I really want to congratulate the Honorable Finance Minister. She has continued the focus that the government has by the 11.1 lakh crores investment on capex in infrastructure, which is again very positive. But to top it up, she has also added the 3 crore houses, and I think one of the biggest initiatives has been the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, which in the past has created the economic buzz in the rural hamlets.
Right.
And this whole idea of connecting 25,000 habitats, I'm sure will be very, very positive.
Absolutely. So thumbs up then to the budget. Good positive feedback there and reactions coming in to the budget, Anand. Back to the studio.
Well, you carry on your conversations. A lot of buzz there at the CII. Saket Mishra is with us. I'm just reading out what Nitin Kamath has just put out of Zerodha. He's put out budget summary for us from their perspective. STT on options goes up from 0.062 to 0.1%. STT on futures goes up from 0.0125% to 0.02% from 1st of October. We collected about 1,500 crore of STT last year at Zerodha offline. If the volumes don't drop, this will increase to about 2,500 500 crore at new rates. The capital gains tax has been increased from 10% to 12.5% and it will apply from today. If the idea was to cool down the activity in the markets, this might just do the trick. Saket Mishra.
So, I mean, I think it's a very sector-based overreaction.
Absolutely.
I don't think if people are trading on the basis of taxes, they shouldn't be in the business of trading to begin with. So I think there are some very, very good signs in this budget. First is that the government in its investing and spending has stuck to things that the private sector can't do. So if you look at disaster management, flood relief, all that will require huge amounts of construction that creates jobs. And those are things that you will not see happening in the private sector. Second is that for the first time, there is a linkage between, and we were discussing this in the morning, that the kind of people that we're churning out from our skilling programs almost have no employable qualities. For the first time, forcing people to go through internships, etc. We are going to see a reflection, and I think, I mean, to be fair, the Telangana government did it pretty well when they brought in the Airbus factories there, that we are getting people who will be trained fit for purpose for particular jobs in the sector. So I think that's been quite a good thing. The energy transition, if they can get the nuclear modular things done right, is a huge jump and a change.
We haven't talked about that at all.
It's
a
huge change.
Science and technology.
Correct. It's big.
Push for productivity.
My only
R&D funding.
Yeah. My only sort of negative on this budget, I would have gone for slightly more aggressive PSU divestment.
Exactly, the P word.
Because I don't think there is any politics there. We can actually have money being raised, and I mean, everybody that comes in doesn't necessarily start firing people. But we need to have, and the Eco-Survey said that, right? They said we should stick to things that we are good at. And the government should not be in things that the private sector can do better. They should be regulating those things, which is the other piece that I think we need to actually have. Let's say monopoly practices continue to be monitored, so we don't have concentration of market shares.
So being on the financial side, like sir rightly said, starting from the Kamath brothers, I will really say one thing. While he is in the business of trading, but the customers are in the business of betting, So it is like it is an MPL version actual, people are there hooked to make money in F&O. And obviously the repercussion is they are getting a revenue out of it. Now they are using that revenue to discount every other services they are providing. And from the competitive landscape, they are also culling out businesses. Angel One had already announced a week back that they are now moving out of this free trading to a chargeable trading, because SEBI had made the guideline, you should have a rational at the end of you should trade. So that is first aspect of it. Second aspect is like because we are from the financial world, when you look at the financial world, you have to see who is the end beneficiary and what is the main rationale or intent by which trading is technically for the hedging. Even if you are speculating